All right. Hey guys, welcome back to Odd Talks. I think the Gamergate 2 thing is in pretty good hands. Rev's made videos, Amala's made videos, Matt Walsh made a video, but let's all admit that we don't really care what Matt Walsh thinks about our community. Let's just kind of accept that whatever his opinion was, it's off to the side. Either way, it's in good hands. The journalists were told, stop acting like you're from the New York Post. And I think like a bunch of them quit. So I guess we're already starting. Nature's starting to heal, you know. So I thought we'd do something different. We have a new Star Wars trailer. We're going to watch it together because apparently this is just the worst Star Wars ever made. And everybody knows that from a 2-minute trailer. So I'll tell you what I think. And then right below this video, someone I love, Amala, I love her videos. She reacted to it. And we'll see if there's any middle ground there. But first, let's watch the trailer and see how it goes.
Close your eyes. Your eyes can deceive you. We must not trust them. Tell me what comes into your mind.
Life. Balance. I see fire.
Someone is killing Jedi. It doesn't make sense.
What happened?
I sensed darkness. This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
What is that?
Close your eyes.
So I don't get what the big deal is. That looks like a pretty like on-brand Star Wars trailer. I don't get how anyone watched 2 minutes of that and was like, that has to be woke. I don't... Maybe I fucking missed something. I thought it looked pretty damn cool. Granted, I'm hesitant to love anything Star Wars. Because we had the sequel movies, and they were just so bad. So bad. But then they, Disney really did us a favor. They gave us Mandalorian, right? So, it's been real hit or miss lately. But I don't know how anyone could watch that and just immediately go, it's a woke, propaganda-filled miss. Maybe it will be. Because we know the director has already said that, like, she doesn't like men and she wants to make things that make them uncomfortable while denying that most of the fucking Star Wars nerds out there are men. Right? So maybe that's a marketing miss. But nothing in the trailer says this is going to be a definite miss. Especially because the big thing for me in Star Wars is universe building and action sequences. And Kung Fu Force ninjas, that's definitely on my list of cool things I want to see. That being said, we've really seen them miss. We've seen them do it. We've seen them do it. So I understand the hesitancy, but I don't agree that we can tell from this trailer. This might be Mandalorian instead of being Boba Fett, right? So I don't know. I'm a little more hesitant to render judgment on a trailer that looked pretty all right. From what I understand, and you guys can let me know if I'm off the mark on this, they're moving away from canon. I think that's a mistake. I think George Lucas gave you a big enough universe that you could have fit this into the canon if that's what you wanted to do. or just tell one of the many, many stories in the canon that people have been begging for years and years, right? You want to know how to make a successful product, listen to your fans. All right, let's move on to the next part of this. I think that's all I got for the trailer. Like I said, Force Ninjas, that's... heck yeah, man, that's cool to me. But let's see what other people have to say about it.
A short time ago, in a studio far, far left, a woman was hired to take on a great task and usher coveted Star Wars IP into a new era. The first goal on her agenda, make it gay.
Alright guys, today we're going to talk about the new Star Wars series, The Acolyte, that is apparently being showrun by none other than Leslie Headland, an LGBTQ activist who is making it her goal to tell you a queer Star Wars story. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into this video, a big shout out to all my patrons on Patreon. You are fueling the work that I do on this channel, and I cannot thank you enough for that. And I'm sure a few of you are going to be Star Wars fans. Today, I have some interesting news to tell you. You are getting new Star Wars content, but it's apparently going to be a queer story. So this new series that's going to be coming out on Disney Plus is titled The Acolyte, and apparently it takes place in the final days of the High Republic era of the Star Wars timeline, when the Republic and the Jedi are at their zenith and peace is the order of the day, though there may be seeds of dark times to come, according to IndieWire.com. The first trailer has been released. Of course, it's generating a lot of buzz amongst Star Wars fans. I'm not the biggest fan of Star Wars, but I always check out new projects to see if my ears perk up with any of the woke agenda that's currently being injected into Hollywood's projects. In checking out this first trailer, I'm seeing a lot of diversity and many mentions of power, which could or could not be red flags. It's really hard to tell these days with the projects that Hollywood.
So, who holds power in the Star Wars universe is pretty key to the storytelling in every Star Wars movie or show ever made. So, I don't know, maybe she's right, that could be a red flag, but also at the same time, who has power has always been one of the key elements of Star Wars. Prequel series, it was the Jedi and the Republic, and then it was the evil Empire, and now it's the First Order. So I don't think that's much of a red flag, but it could be. It could be. They could play it in like a ham-fisted, eat my message kind of way, so...
puts out. But if we're listening to the showrunner Leslie Headland when it comes to Star Wars The Acolyte, we're gonna see some woke elements. A new clip is circulating of her discussing the route that she's taking in directing Star Wars The Acolyte and how she wants to tell a queer story. Let's watch.
When I saw Frozen as a grown-ass woman, I cried through the entire movie. There was just something about the relationship between the sisters, the like de-villainization of the classic kind of fairy tale bad guy, you know, the concept of true love being between two sisters and not a heterosexual relationship. Like it just destroyed me completely. And I thought, gosh, you know, I would love to make something like this that is.
Imagine being that fucking old and then just suddenly having a value for the love between siblings. Like, I don't think Frozen was as powerful for everyone else because we understood platonic love between siblings prior to us being grown-ass people. But hey, maybe that's just me.
Is, you know, for lack of a better term, Disney, meaning it's something that like my parents would have allowed me to see when I was younger as a queer person.
Gotcha.
But I would have been able to understand as a queer person, and I think I would have had a completely different life. And so I really was inspired by it and was like, God, I would love to make a story like this. And so when I was developing this original idea to pitch to Kathleen, I thought, well, you know, it can't just be that. You know, when you're pitching Star Wars, you have to pull from what, you know, George was also interested in.
So there's many interesting points made in this clip where she's referencing Frozen and the direction she's taking with this new Star Wars series. It's interesting to me that she saw a film about the love between two sisters and immediately jumped from that into an LGBTQ narrative or a queer narrative, as she says herself.
Put a chick in it and make her gay. Do it.
in the clip. When she states that Frozen had a lack of heterosexual relationships, it's very clear that she views the world through the lens of her sexuality, which is a superficial identity. This is what many on the left do. Instead of viewing Frozen as a fun and whimsical kids film about two sisters who go through a turbulent time and find love for one another at the end, she filters it through her lens of LGBTQ+ activism. Frozen is a popular story because it's fun, it has great music, and it actually speaks to deeper themes: sisterly love or sibling love, fighting for something, going through a time.
So I'm not sure the theme there is deeper, but it is certainly more relatable to a larger demographic. And that's where you're going to see the most success in marketing when you tell stories, is when the struggle or the values are universal regardless of how you identify. I'm sure everyone at some point in their life has had a platonic love for somebody else, and that's why it's so successful, is because everyone can experience that, versus narrowing it down to a minority community. The stories are important, but demographically, you're losing a lot of people in there, with the exception of me, who might just show up for Force Ninjas, you know?
Where you have conflict with somebody and realizing you love them at the end. It has nothing to do with the element that these are two females, or whether or not they're heterosexual or lesbian or queer, yet she feels the need to inject that into the narrative. Now, even more concerning than that bit of rhetoric is when she talks about the endeavor that she's taking on with this new Star Wars The Acolyte series. She makes it pretty clear that her main goal is to tell a queer story featuring women, then goes on to say in order to do that, she has to pull from the work of George Lucas and the original IP. So the very foundation of what she's creating is not actually a Star Wars story, it is a queer story. And in order for her to be able to tell that queer story, she has to sprinkle in a little bit of the Star Wars IP. It shows you what many people are doing in Hollywood right now. They're coming into the writer's room with their agenda ready to roll, and then realizing they actually have to tell the audience a story on top of their political activism. The story is not at the forefront. The deeper human truths that are meant to be communicated to you are not at the forefront. Their activism is at the forefront, and they think about the story as a secondary or even tertiary matter. This clip is very reminiscent of an interview clip we got from another Star Wars director, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, who's working on Star Wars New Jedi Order, where she says she wants to make men uncomfortable.
What is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
Now, interestingly enough, executives at Disney
Okay, so I was obviously fucked up at the beginning of my video. That's the lady who said she wants to make men uncomfortable. So if you scroll back to like the first 2 minutes of this video, I made a mistake. Secondly, what turns these people into comic book villains? Like, you have your plan. Don't monologue it. Don't let me know. Because now I know I probably don't want to watch what you're making. If I want to be uncomfortable sitting down for 2 hours, I can just go talk to my mother for the next 2 or 3 hours, man. Like, I don't need to pay money out of my pocket to see your damn movie to do it. So why would you tell me that? Why would you say it out loud? And again, like I said in the beginning of the video, if the large demographic of your fans are nerdy-ass men and you tell them I made something that is not for you, you're going to lose your studio money. It's totally okay to have a political agenda, and it's okay to include small bits of that in your story, because it's relevant to real life, and it'll be relatable. But if it's the only part of the story you tell, it sucks, right? And if you collapse the studio because you're bad at this, and you made a bad story, you can't make anymore. No one has to shoot you in the foot. You're doing it to yourself.
continue to push the narrative that they are not political in their films, that they are in fact diverting away from the culture war when it comes to new projects. So how is it possible that we're getting these interview clips on projects that we've yet to see? And it's because even though we can see that these are blatant acts of activism, these women don't think that they are being political in the message that they are promoting to their audiences. And why don't they think they're being political? It's because this is the lens through which they have viewed the world for a considerable amount of time. To them, it's not political to make an entire series about the queer identity and make men uncomfortable or talk about marginalized communities and systems of power. It's just their lens. And I have to mention, the actress that Leslie Headland is standing next to in this now infamous interview clip is Amanda Stenberg, who is also an activist herself. She's been featured in films like The Hate U Give, which is about police brutality. She's made many a mention of cultural appropriation, her blackness, and also her queerness. So we can see the direction that Disney Plus is taking in this new Star Wars series. And this, of course, is all part of the pattern that we've recognized in Disney for quite some time. We're girl bossing, we're making men uncomfortable, we're talking about marginalized identities, we're telling queer stories. We've seen this in their different projects like She-Hulk, Peter Pan and Wendy, Madam Web, The Marvels, Snow White. The list goes on and on and on, and I'm sure you guys can add to it. And I have to wonder, how long can this continue? Because Disney's projects seem to continuously flop and flop and flop, meaning that the audience is recognizing that they're no longer telling good stories and they don't feel the need to watch anymore. That Disney magic that we all once recognized has fizzled out. What we're being given today as an audience is in fact a big ball of political messaging and ideology with a thin wrapper of storytelling and character development surrounding it. And we're all asking ourselves this question: why are they taking things that we once loved and using them to usher in these new stories? Why is it happening with things like Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Snow White, things that have already been done well once and don't need to be done again? It's because they're activists.
It's because the IP is famous. It's because you can attach your message to something you know people already know of. Kind of the same way I'm riding Mala's coattails here. They're riding the coattails of something that is largely successful that has an established fan base. It doesn't work though. It doesn't work. They just released the new season of Halo. And the advertisement on Amazon Prime is, you don't have to love video games to love this show. If you loved the video game, you'll fucking hate that show. It's awful. It's dog water. It's terrible in every way that it could possibly be terrible. And I feel like we should coin the term made for Twitter. The new Halo was made for Twitter. It was made for people who weren't Halo fans. It was made for a broader public at the expense of the fans that were going to show up, which is why it bombs. That's why it's awful, is because you had something established. You knew at the very least you'd get a jump start on release, and then you could build on that and get all the people on Twitter who were like, oh, we want to see this, we want to see that. And then they didn't show up and watch your show, because they never do, right? They have opinions, but like that's really about it. People on Twitter aren't going to rally behind you because you give them what they want. They're going to start whining about what else they don't have. So the same way Halo made their show for Twitter and it was a failure is the same way they made the Suicide Squad game for Twitter. The same way they're making this for Twitter, possibly. It's a bad plan. It's terrible marketing. It's a bad plan. It's not a good way to run a business. We'll see if that's the case with the new Star Wars. Like I said, though, I'm really holding out hope here because Trinity was doing some Force Ninja stuff, and I'm really into that.
Storytelling does not stand on its own, that they in fact have to trick the audience by luring them in with something they know they have nostalgia and love for. And in a time where we're all working hard and the economy has our wallets wearing thin, they are tricking you out of your time and money. It used to be that entertainment was somewhat a form of escapism, that you could work a long day, come home, sit on the couch or go to the theater and watch a film that lets you be in another world for a little while. But they are robbing you of that by feeling the need to inject their agenda agenda into everything you watch. They don't want you to be able to escape. They don't want you to be entertained. They want you to sit down after you've worked a long day and be told that you need to change your political opinions. They want to tell the audience that they hate them, essentially. They're not hiding it anymore. They're saying the quiet part very much out loud. And they're relying on the fact that you love Star Wars, that you're going to be watching a new Star Wars series as it is released, even if it is in fact not a Star Wars story at all. And of course, I'm not here to tell you whether or not to watch this series. I watch many a movie or TV series that I don't support the message of. But I am saying keep an eye out for the messaging, because when you have an agenda like this going into a project that's meant to be an art form and storytelling, it's no longer an art form or storytelling. It's propaganda. So as much as Disney claims that they are exiting the culture war, they are very much behind the scenes pulling the strings. So don't fall for it, like the Jedi fell for Senator Palpatine. But those are just my thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, I encourage healthy debate, so if you disagree with me, duke it out, but do so respectfully. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Yeah, you better.
Okay, so I'm not sure I agree that this is going to be an absolute miss quite yet, but with the new information I just got from this video, it seems very likely that it'll be ham-fisted the same way a lot of previous projects were. I'm going to hold out hope. I was unbelievably disappointed in Boba Fett, but that's okay, because I was able to lean on The Mandalorian. I have a lot of hope for the future of Star Wars, even though the prequel movies kind of... I'm just saying, that was almost a welcome to your tape moment, that last movie, wasn't it? It was pretty rough for all of us to get through. But I'm going to hold out hope. I will, of course, link Amala's video in the description. You guys should check out her channel. She does all kinds of cool stuff. Other than that, I am going to maybe do some taxes or play Elden Ring. I haven't decided yet. So I'll see you guys next time. Pretend I said something inspiring to close all this off.